Today we are going to discuss about the topic of the communication skills. Start with their introductions. Communication skills, basically that kind of skills where we have to learn about how we can talk with someone, how we can respect others, and what kind of things we have to keep in us, like active listening, adapting your communication style to your audience, friendliness, confidence, giving and receiving feedback, volume and clarity, empathy, and respect. Because if we are talk with someone in a precise manner, in a good manner, similarly, next person can feel very happy to us while listening our communication. Communication is a series of experience like hearing, smell, seeing, taste, and touch. First, we will discuss that hearing in communication. Merriam-Webster defines hearing as the process, function, or power of perceiving sound, especially the special sense by which noises and tones are received as stimuli. Listening, on the other hand, means to pay attention to sound, to hear something with thoughtful attention, and to give the consideration. As one of our most important sense, the ability to hear enables us to connect to the world for many very important, even vital reasons. Most importantly, hearing connects us to people, enabling us to communicate in a way that none of our other senses can achieve. Basically, hearing is essential for maintaining relationships and connection with friends and family. Fully participating in team and community activities and experiencing life events, hearing makes it possible to engage, listen, laugh, and enjoy many of the things that help shape your quality of life. Next, smell. Communication basically by scent can prove dangerous to certain animals such as the musk deer and certain civets. Bees, wasps, ants, moths, and other insects rely largely upon pheromones as a means of communication, which may be secreted in urine, dung, or produced by the special glands. The sense of smell is an important but poorly understood factor in human communication. It is hard to define smells and to talk about them, but they can send important chemical cues to those around us. Interpretations of smells vary from culture to culture. Basically, communication is the process by which organizations and organisms are able to communicate with each other through different scents and odors. Next is the seeing. Seeing basically in the visual communication, that practice of graphically representing information to efficiently, effectively create meaning. Examples of where visual communication can be used include conferences and trade shows, websites, social media posts, office presentations and meetings, and so much more. Basically, in the context of the scene, we have to know that what kind of context we have to see. We also compared seeing in the visual communications. Visual communication applications within higher education facilities continue to grow as campuses begin to exploit the benefits of any screen information delivery. An increasing number of institutions are implementing facility-wide systems that allow administrators, students, and staff to directly engage with both internal and external source of information. When combined with the ubiquity of portable screens, availability of increased bandwidth, and emergence of next generation technology such as near field communication. Next is the taste. Taste is perhaps the sense that we use least in the art of communication, unless, of course, you wish to refer to it in a figurative manner, such as good taste in your style of communication, or the taste of success that comes when you finally get through to someone. The mouth and the tongue allow for an individual to perceive taste. There are four sensations under this sense: sour, salty, sweet, and bitter. It also allows for an individual to communicate positive or negative feelings of a certain object. I'm giving you example that the taste is the acting of eating or drinking, the sense of noticing flavors in food or drink, or a liking for someone. Basically, taste is a sampling of soup, a taste of soap. Taste is the sense controlled by the buds on the tongue and the taste buds. Next and last experience is touch. Touch is also called the haptic communication, is a branch of non-verbal communication that refers to the ways in which people and animals communicate and interact via the sense of touch. Touch is the most sophisticated and intimate of the five senses. Similar to infants, in chimpanzees, the sense of touch is highly developed. Today can come in many different forms. Some can promote physical and psychological well-being. A warm, loving touch can lead to positive outcomes, while a violent touch can ultimately lead to a negative outcomes. The sense of touch allows one to experience different sensations such as pleasure, pain, hot, or cold. Touch can also be categorized in the many terms such as positive, playful, control, task-related, or unintentional. Next, communication skills. Communication skills basically allow you to understand and be understood by others. These can include, but are not limited to, effectively communicating ideas to others, actively listening in conversations, giving and receiving critical feedback, and public speaking. Communication skills are the abilities you use when giving and receiving different kinds of information. It also includes communicating new ideas, feelings, or even an update on your product. Communication skills involve listening, speaking, observing, and empathizing. It is also helpful to understand the differences in how to communicate through face-to-face interaction, phone conversation, and digital communications like email and social media. I'm giving you the example of the communication skills here, that there are different types of communication skills you can learn and practice to help you become an effective communicator. Many of these skills work together making it important to practice communication skills in different contexts whenever possible. Communication skills is also the ability to use language and express information. Effective communication skills are a critical element in your career and personal lives. We also including this active listening and adapting your communication style to your audience. Because if you are communicating with a potential employer, it's a better to send a formal email or call them on the phone. Depending on the situation, you may even need to send a formal typed letter over other form of communication. And in the workplace, complex information in person or via a video conference than in a long sense email. We have some communication goals. In the communication goals, first of all, to change behavior, to get action, to ensure understanding, to persuade, to get and give information, create clear communication with no ambiguity, improve the communication response rate, establish and improve relationship, diversify communication delivery, share your purpose, create positive change with reinforcement, use storytelling to be more relatable. So you can see the picture that the change behavior with the help of the communication, we just change our behavior in many little points. Moreover, we have to get actions. In the large number, we have to ensure the understanding. We also have to persuade in more numbers, and moreover, a large percentage, that is to get and give information with the help of the communication. We have some questions that what did I learn from my data? What is the primary message from my data and I would like others to know about? What would I like to see happen from communicating this message? Okay, so what is my goal? Basically, the most common ways to communicate. That is speaking, writing, visual image, and body language. We also use the facial expressions, gestures, pointing, using hands, writing, drawing, using equipments like text messages or computer, touch, and eye contact. We also use the verbal communication, non-verbal communication, written communication, listening, and visual communication. Firstly, we will talk about the speaking skills in communication, basically, which allow us to communicate effectively. They give us the ability to convey information verbally and in a way that the listener can understand. Children will learn English speaking skills as well as speaking skills in other languages in primary and secondary schools. In this, we have to learn the fluence, vocabulary, grammar, pronunciations, stand in balanced, relaxed positions, rest your arms and hands besides your waist, make direct eye contact with at least 10 of the audience around the room and use lots of pauses. Why nowadays speaking skills is too much important? Basically, it allows us to form connections, influence decisions, and motivate change. Without communication skills, the ability to progress in the working world and in life itself would be nearly impossible. Public speaking is one of the most important and most derided form of communication. Next is the writing. Writing skills, basically, we have to know about the conciseness, clarity, tone, active voice, grammar, punctuation, added thoroughly, make use of wide vocabulary. Having a wide vocabulary is an asset of a successful writer. Get a writing partner. Express your thoughts confidently. First drafts are never perfect. A writing and written communication means the sending of messages, orders, or instructions in writing through letters, circulars, manuals, reports, telegrams, office memos, and bulletins, etc. A written document received properly becomes a permanent record for future reference. Nowadays, writing skills are an important part of communication. Good writing skills allow you to communicate your message with clarity and ease to a far large audience than through face-to-face or telephone conversation. Next is the visual image. Visual image is also called a visual communication, is the use of visual elements to convey ideas and information which include but are not limited to sign, typography, drawing, graphic design, illustrations, industrial design, advertising, animation, and electronic resources. Humans have used visual communication since prehistoric times. Next is the body language. Body language is the use of physical behavior, expressions, and mannerism to communicate non-verbally. Often done instinctively rather than consciously, whether you are aware of it or not. When you interact with others, you are continuously giving and receiving wordless signals. Next, types of communication. In the types of communication, we have many types. Verbal communication, non-verbal communication, written communication, listening, visual communication, oral communication, spoken communication, written communication, formal and informal communication, like that. Firstly, we will talk that on the basis of organization relationship, we have two types of communication, that is formal communication and informal communication. Formal communication basically refers to the flow of official information through proper predefined channels and routes. The flow of information is controlled and needs deliberate efforts to a properly communicated. Formal communication follows a hierarchical structure and chain of command. Next is informal communication. So informal communication is casual communication between co-workers in the workplace. It is unofficial in nature and is based in the informal social relationships that are formed in a workplace outside of the normal hierarchy of business structure. Next, on the basis of flow, first is the vertical communication. Vertical communication is a communication process in which information or messages flow between or among the superiors, supervisors, leaders, or managers to subordinates, employees, or team members of different levels of an organizational structure in the downward or upward direction. Next is the crosswise communication. Crosswise communication, it actually includes the horizontal flows of information. This actually means that the crosswise communication includes horizontal flow of information among people on the same organizational level and the diagonal flow among the persons of different organizational level. Next is the horizontal communication. Horizontal communication, also called lateral communication, is the practice of sharing information between employees, departments, and units within the same level of an organization. This type of communication allows employees from different departments to work together in a synchronized work environment. Next, on the basis of expressions, first is the oral communication. Oral communication are similar as the spoken communication, verbal communication, where we can exchange of information and ideas through spoken words. It can be directly in person, in a face-to-face interaction, or through an electronic device such as a phone or radio. In the oral communication, we can share our feelings, our thoughts with others with the help of using words. Next is the written communication. Written communication basically where we can't use the words, and it just involves any type of interactions that makes use of the written words. Communication is a key to any endeavor involving more than one person. It is essential for small business owners and managers to develop effective written communication skills and to encourage the same in all employees. Next is the gesture communication. In the gestures communication, we also call a non-verbal communication, and there we are just using the hand movements, body languages, and eye contacts. With the help of the gestures, in form of non-verbal communication or non-vocal communication, in which visible bodily actions communicate particular message either in place of or in conjunction with speech. Gestures include movements of the hands, face, or other parts of the body. Next, barriers of communication. Barriers of communication basically, with the help of these barriers, we can't do communication process easily. In this, we have a physical barrier, perceptual barrier, emotional barrier, cultural barrier, language barrier, gender barrier, interpersonal barrier, semantic barrier, psychological barrier, organizational, and barriers in superiors. First is the semantic barrier. Semantic barrier refers to the misunderstanding between the sender and receiver arising due to the different meanings of words and other symbols used in the communication. Next is psychological barrier. In the psychological barrier to communicate are related with the limitations of the human body and the human mind. Psychological barriers may result from individuals' personal discomfort caused by ill health, poor eyesight, or hearing difficulties. Organizational barrier refers to the hindrance in the flow of information among the employees that might result in a commercial failure of an organization. Because in the organization, we have to just maintain our boundaries in a similar ways. Next is barriers in superior. So a superior may give only selected information to his subordinates so as to maintain status differences. Subordinates usually tend to convey only those things which the superior would appreciate. This creates distortion in upwards communication. Start with the semantic barrier. Semantic barrier basically a symbols with different meanings, badly expressed message, faulty translations, unclarified assumptions, specialists language, and these all are included in the semantic barrier. Next is the emotional or psychological barrier. In this, we have a premature evaluation, inattention, loss of transmission or poor retention, undue reliance on the written words, distrust of communication, and failure to communicate. Next, we have organizational barrier. In the organizational barrier, organizational policy, organization rules and regulations, status, relations, and complexity in organization. We have a personal barrier, barriers in superior, in attitude of superior, fear of challenge of authority, lack of time, and lack of awareness. Next, barriers in subordinates, unwillingness to communicate, lack of proper incentives, and here is the communication process. In the communication process, we have a sender is made up of 4 key components. Those components include an encoding, medium of transmission, decoding, and feedback. These are also 2 other factors in the process, and those 2 factors are present in the form of sender and the receiver. Basically, in this, we are taught that about the sender, message, channel, and receiver. In the context of the sender or the communicator generates the message and conveys it to the receiver. He is the source and the one who starts the communication. Next is the message. It is the idea, information, view, facts, feelings, etc. that is generated by the sender and is then intended to be communicated further. Next is encoding. The message generated by the sender is encoded symbolically, such as in the form of words, pictures, gestures, etc., before it is being conveyed. Next is the media. We also call it channel. It is the manner in which the encoded message is transmitted. The message may be transmitted orally or in writing. The medium of communication includes telephone, internet, post, fax, email, etc. The choice of medium is dedicated and decided by the sender. Next is the decoding. It is the process of converting the symbols encoded by the sender after decoding the message is received by the receiver. Next is the receiver. He is the person who is last in the chain and for whom the message was sent by the sender. Only then the purpose and purpose of communication is successful. Next is the feedback. Once the receiver confirms to the sender that he has received the message and understood it, the process of communication is complete. Last process is communication is noise. It refers to any obstructions that is caused by the sender, message, or receiver during the process of communication. Next, communication code schemes. Like if he or she first think about the tree and it's codify the name that is tree, and he send the message to the receiver, he receives the message and listen that he talked to her or him tree, and then he decodifies that okay, that's a tree. Next, communication involves the three components like verbal messages, the word we choose, paraverbal messages, how we saw the words, and non-verbal messages are body language. These three components are used to send clear, concise messages, receive and correctly understand message sent to us, like sending message. Effective verbal messages like that are brief, sufficient and organized, are free of jargon, and don't create resistance in the listener. In the non-verbal messages, we have to do these facials and the body postures and the gestures, because in the non-verbal communication, we can't use the words, we just have to use the facials, eye expressions, body movements, hand motions, like that. Next is the paraverbal messages. Paraverbal communication refers to the messages that we transmit through the tone, pitch, and pacing of our voice, like that. I don't say you were stupid. I didn't say you were stupid. I didn't say you were stupid, like that. Now, receiving messages in the listening requires concentration and energy. We have to involve the psychological connection with the speaker, include a desire and willingness to try and see things from another perspective, and requires that we suspend judgment and evaluation. Key listening skills: nonverbal, giving full physical attention to the speaker, being aware of the speaker's nonverbal messages, and in the context of the verbal, that we have to paying attention to the words and feelings that are being expressed. So what makes a good communication basically? Clarity, adequacy, integrity, timing, connectivity, these kind of things makes a good communication. How do you develop your communication skills? Like we have to oral presentation, we have to writing skills, we have to non-verbal awareness. These kind of communication skills can help us to development in ourselves of communication skills. Tips to good communication skills basically: maintain eye contact with audience, body awareness, gestures expressions, convey one's thoughts, and practice effective communication skills. In the effective communications, if two-way, it involves active listening. It reflects the accountability of the speaker and listener. It utilizes feedback. It is free of stress and it is clear. So these things we have to should in our mind that communication is very important and effective communication is very important nowadays. So thank you so much. I hope you clear about the all concept of the communication and their skills, their techniques, types, and what kind of barriers are indulged in this. So thank you so much.